Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. We're going to be solving question 23 from the second chapter of the Johnston textbook, and in this one we need to determine the x and y components of each of these forces, as we can see. So keep in mind we need to dissolve each force in x and y component as long as we have the angle with x-axis. Our x component would be the magnitude of that force times cosine of the angle with x-axis, and our y component would be the magnitude times sine of that angle with x-axis. So as long as we have the angle for x-axis, all of x component will be cosine, and all of the y components will be sine. The other thing that we need to keep in mind is the direction of each of these components. If it's along positive x-axis or positive y-axis, we put a positive sign, and if it's along negative y or x-axis, we have to put a negative sign. So that's pretty much everything for this. Let's go with each of them. So first of all, we have to find the angles in here, or what we can do in here is that in each of these right triangles that we see, we can find the hypotenuse. That way it's easy enough to find the sine and cosine. So let's do that. If you want to find here, let's call this point A, this point B, and this point C. So if you want to find OA, based on the Pythagorean theorem, we have 600 squared plus 800 squared. That's going to be 1000 millimeter. We're going to do the same thing. So we were looking at this right triangle in here. So we're going to do the same thing for the OB. So we have this right triangle this time. So OB would be the square root of one side is 560 squared and the other side is 900. So 900 squared. And let's calculate this with calculator. So the square root of plus 600, plus 900 squared, that's going to be 1060 millimeter. And the last one would be what we have in here. So we call it OC. We'll have the square root of 480 squared plus 900 squared. Let's see what we get for this one. So we just have here 480 instead of. So that's going to give us 1020 millimeter. And now we're good to go with each of these. Let's start with the 800 Newton. So if we look at it, we'll see that this will be the x component and this will be the y component. They're both along positive x and y axis, so it will be positive for each. So we are doing the 800 Newton force. So the Fx will be, if we consider this angle as our angle with x-axis, we will have the magnitude, which is 800 times cosine of that angle that we show, which would be the adjacent over hypotenuse, or 800 divided by 1000. So that's going to be 640 Newton. If we want to find Fy, we have 800 times, this time we have sine, so opposite 600 over the hypotenuse, which we found the first step. So 1000, and that's going to be 480. So that was everything for the 800 Newton, and pretty much what the question is asking is the x and y component. Let's move on to the next one. Let's go with the 424 Newton force. And again, we're trying to find Fx and Fy. So if you want to find the, if we dissolve this force to x and y component, this will be the x and this will be the y. As we can see, the x is along negative x-axis, so negative, and same for the y, they're both negative, and we have the magnitude of the force 424 times, this time this is our angle with x-axis. Cosine of that angle would be adjacent, which is 560 over OB, which is the hypotenuse, or 1060. And for Fy, we have the same thing. This time we'll have opposite, which was 900 over 1060. So let's calculate each of these. So 424 times 560 divided by 1060. That's going to be minus 224 Newton. And we have 424 times 900 divided by 1060. And that's going to be minus 360. So that would be the answer for the 424 Newton. There's one more 408 Newton. Let's find Fx and Fy. And let's dissolve that force in X and Y component. So this will be the X and this will be the Y. We can see the X component is positive, but the Y is downward, so negative. So X is positive, Y is negative. We have the magnitude of the force, which is 408 times cosine of the angle with x-axis. We can call this angle alpha. So the x component would be cosine of alpha, which is the adjacent 480 divided by the hypotenuse 1020. So 480 divided by 1020. And the y component will be the opposite, which is this side. So 900 divided by what we found for OC, which was 1020. So let's calculate these two. So 408 times 480 times 480 divided by 1020. So 192. And 408 times 900 divided by 1020. That's going to be minus 360 Newton. And that's going to be the final answer for this question. Hope everything was clear. Again, as long as we have the angle with x-axis, we just have to go with the cosine for x component and sine for the y component. And the other thing is to watch out for the positive and negative sign of the force in these questions. So let me know if you guys have any questions, and you guys take care. I'll see you in the next one.